And we're recording. So, as a sort of general show, everybody kind of doing okay today? Had a good day? Yeah.
Yep.
Nods. Good. So yeah, I thought it might be worth having a chat about fasting. I always kind of considered fasting over 24 hours, but I suppose in the context of this group, I would probably say anything over 23 hours would be regarded as fasting. I think intermittent fasting I kind of think of as like half fasting. And so really traditionally your kind of intermittent fasting that you'll find on most YouTube channels and stuff is like 24, 16, 8, that sort of thing. So for those who don't know, what they're doing there is they're breaking down a 24-hour cycle and an eating window and a fasting window. So yeah, so that's what when you read about or when you see things about intermittent fasting, they're breaking down how long are you going without food, and how long is your eating window. Not to be thought that you should eat for every moment of your eating window, but some people when they read up on it, they think that they can eat as much as they want in that at that time. Some people use their fasting window to limit their calories. Like if you're doing 23 and 23-1, so you've got an hour to get in your calories, it's reasonably difficult to get in too many calories in an hour. I'm not suggesting that you try, you can do it, but like you're not going to get in 3 courses in an hour, and if you're deliberately trying to like eat healthily, it would take quite a lot of fast eating and hard work to cram in a lot in that time. Fasting, just from my experience and from helping other people. So obviously fasting is going, or extended fasting as I would describe it, is going beyond 24 hours without any calories going in. That's really at the point where, we've talked a lot about salts and potassium and magnesium and your Epsom salts in the bath and stuff. Really, your body would only struggle to any sort of greater extent when you're fasting above 24 hours. Like really your sodium levels, if you're eating every day, they shouldn't be depleted too much. If the weather's hot, if you're going for long walks or doing a lot of exercise, or passing a lot of water, then your minerals can get low. I think it's almost like belt and braces for most of us, that if you're eating healthy food, if you're eating meat, you should be getting salt in your body anyway. Actually, that just reminds me something. I watched a documentary last night. If you're trying to get your salt in, I had been saying to folk, look, table salt is fine. If you've not got pink salt or Celtic salt or rock salt, I've changed my perspective on that since yesterday. Table salt is not the same as the other salts. And actually there are links between high cholesterol and too much table salt. The way that the sodium is created is not as healthy a process, because it's bleached white, and so it's actually not that good for you. That's just a wee kind of side note. I was asked a couple of questions that I've written down. What to expect with fasting? If you're fasting over 24 hours, you may get hungry at some point in that time. Usually for most folk, when they go beyond 36 hours, hunger just disappears and never returns. So you'll feel it. There is up to a point where you're feeling maybe a bit empty or like hollow feeling, or maybe a bit hungry. But there is a moment where your body just goes, right, so we're not getting any food then, that's fine. And essentially it switches, it's called like being fat adapted, that your body suddenly basically has no expectation of food going in. So your bowels just kind of almost like hibernation, your digestive system just completely relaxes, and hunger just disappears and never returns until you eat again. So for me, it was between 36 and 48 hours. So like at that moment, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 10 days, 12 days, like literally hunger never arrives until you break fast. And so maybe some of you will have experienced that when you eat breakfast, you're hungrier for the rest of the day than when you skip breakfast. And it's almost like when your body is in the habit of breaking down food and doing the digestive thing, it continues to do it and it continues to expect it. But the more that your body gets used to fasting, the quicker you get into that fat adapted state. So when I first started off, it was 36, 48 hours before the hunger went away. But really, 4 or 5 weeks into me doing back-to-back fasts, it didn't bother me. And because I was eating keto refeeds, I wasn't getting like a sugar and carb hit when I was breaking fast. And so if you were doing 1 meal a day, you might find that if you're breaking fast and you're not really eating the right things, but you think, oh, bugger it, I'm only eating 1 meal a day, you'll have more of a struggle in each of those 24-hour fasts than if you're quite low carb on your what I call refeeds. Quite low carb on your refeeds, you'll find that hunger doesn't quite ever get back to if you have a weekend off with drinks and hangover recovery food and stuff like that. You can find that the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday can be quite a struggle again. But with fasts, if you're coming out of a fast having 1 hour of like bringing fuel back into your body and it's not carbs and sugar, then you'll just get back in. You can just go back into a fast and keep doing that and repeat it over and over again. Another question I've got: do's and don'ts for fasting. Don't just drink water. If you're doing fasts, I wouldn't do 48 hours. You'd probably be fine. Certainly not more than that, but I wouldn't even do 48 hours just drinking water. Water helps you to stop holding on to water and it makes you pee more. So it flushes out your system of all the minerals. So when I fasted, it was never without my salty water, pink salt, low salt, and for me, baking soda and a little bit of Epsom salts all went in 2 liters of water. And that was what kept me full of beans and my body functioning at its highest for as long as I wanted to go. And when it comes to fasting, the truth of the matter is, while you have fat on your body, you do not need food, because we talk about maintenance calories. So let's say, for a round number, your maintenance is 1,000 calories. Let's say you eat 1,500 calories in a day. There's 500 calories of energy, kilojoules of energy, 500, more than that, that your body's like, well, what do I do with this? And it can't store a cookie or a handful of tatties somewhere on your body. It wants to keep it for a rainy day, but it has to transform it into something that can be kept for a rainy day on your body for 6 months in case an ice age comes, or in case like you're stranded on a desert island. So it turns it into this thing called fat. And so all fat is water and fats and energy. And so as long as you have fat on your body, you don't actually need food. Your digestive system is a functioning system, but it's not actually necessary as long as you've got fat on you. And that's why there's a famous story of a guy that went into hospital. It was in Scotland, and he fasted for a year. He went in at like 400 and odd pounds and didn't eat a single calorie for a whole year, and came out perfectly healthy and perfectly slim, because as long as his body had fat on it, it was just fueling all of his systems. And so I think he had like minerals and a drip and stuff like that. But so yeah, what the body is capable of is actually astounding. And Paula, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to unmute myself. Yeah, I'm just saying, you were on about drinking baking soda in your water. If
Yeah.
you drink soda water, is that similar to doing that or no?
I don't think so. Is soda water just carbonated water?
Yeah, I think so.
So
But it's different from sparkling water, so I wasn't sure what the difference was.
I'm not sure, but I'll have a wee look. No, I used to drink baking soda. Actually, you know how we drink, or some of us drink apple cider vinegar in the morning?
Yeah.
Part of my morning routine, if I wasn't having my baking soda in my water, I would have a shot of apple cider vinegar, give it half an hour because the digestive benefits of it are amazing and the fat burning benefits are amazing. And then half an hour later, I'd have a shot or a small glass of water with bicarbonate soda in it. And bicarbonate soda is extremely alkaline. When you're fasting, your kidneys have to work really, really hard. And so they become quite acidic. And so, like, but then again, we're talking about 72, 96, 120, 144, 200 hour fasts, like big fasts. So your kidneys are working really, really hard. And so they become acidic. And because baking soda is so alkaline, when you drink it quite strong, like not hugely diluted, it cools the kidneys down and keeps them like nice and happy, and it neutralizes the acidity in them. So not hugely relevant if you're eating one meal a day. But if you're going like aiming to go a bit longer than that, then it becomes potentially relevant.
Okay.
So yeah. So my routine would normally be I'd start at 7, I'd probably eat at 7 at night or eat at 6 at night, finish for 7 o'clock. Eat like things like cucumber and stuff that have a lot of moisture in them, a lot of water in them, and then I'd start fasting. And then I would just go and go and go and go. One of the biggest problems with fasting is that when people fail, so like let's say you're aiming for 96 hours, which is 4 days. If you fail at like hour 56 or something, people never stop fasting at that time and choose a healthy meal. Because you know how like when you're doing a routine and maybe the scales don't move and the scales don't move and the scales don't move and you're like, I'm doing everything I can. And then you hit the FUCKIT button. It tends to be like a takeaway or a few drinks or something that's not on plan because you're despondent and you're a bit disappointed with how it's going. Same with a fast. If you're aiming for a certain number of hours, when you fall short, you tend to fall short like and go for it because you're disappointed and you're a bit pissed off. And so if you were going to be trying a longer fast, and it needn't be like days and days, but like 36 hours or whatever, have whatever it is that you're going to break fast with, whether you make it that full amount of time or you decide to stop before then because you're tired or whatever reason, still have the thing that you were going to have when you break fast and have it to hand or have it ready because it's far too easy to think I'm a failure. Where's the Snickers? And so that would be a bit of advice. When you do break fast, eating carefully. I think I've said this before, but when I was coming off longer fasts, and this is probably wouldn't be relevant, but there's a sort of microcosm of what you guys might be doing. After 7 days, I would have coconut water for the potassium and there's sugar in it, and I wouldn't care. Then I'd have some watermelon a few hours later. Then I'd have some soup a few hours later. Then I'd have like a small, healthy, not like too spicy or too heavy a meal. And because my digestive system would have to slowly get reintroduced to working again. So if I broke fast with like a fish supper, half an hour later or an hour later, like I better be near the bathroom. Your stomach isn't ready for that amount of grease or that amount of sort of not so good stuff, or like what we call heavy food. And so it doesn't react very well to it. So reintroducing food or any calories to your system can upset it if you do it too extremely. Yeah. So yeah. Paula.
No, I was just going to say, can you give us a sort of list of what kind of things we should eat when we break our fast, or is it just what we've been eating anyway?
What you've been eating anyway? Yeah. Things that are not too difficult to break down. For me, it was, I don't know if you've seen the pictures of my big veggie like platters. So it would be kale, courgette, mushrooms, because I was trying to break fast with keto. I was just aiming for mostly low carb, kind of keto friendly veg. At the time that I'm thinking of, I was actually vegetarian at the time, so I was eating like corn, chicken strips, or chicken pieces, or something like that, to put through it for a bit of protein. Sometimes boiled eggs. Sometimes I'd be foolish and I'd put like chili powder and paprika and a few boiled tatties, and because I was like, I don't know, I've got an issue with portion size and like being a bit greedy when I do eat. So yeah, so when I did that, I suffered as a result of it. But yeah, small, sensible, a little bit of meat chopped up through a salad would be great. Yeah, nothing that would give you any sort of major stomach issues anyway, which generally I don't think you guys are eating anything that would. Misconception about fasting is that you'll feel weak. The most productivity that I've ever had in my life was like day 5 of a dry fast. Dry fasting's a whole other subject. So if fasting is going without food, dry fasting is going without food or water. Hard dry fasting is no contact with water. So no showers, no brushing teeth, no washing hands. So very rarely have I done any hard dry fasting, because I was a care worker for years. So washing hands and being fresh, I had to have showers and stuff. But I've done 5-day dry fasts, so no food or water for 5 days, and then introducing just water with the salts after 5 days and going up to 10, 11, 12 days. And I mean, like, all housework done, doing DIY jobs that weren't necessary, like 16-hour split shifts, home care in the height of summer, like dashing around all day, every day. Your energy levels, actually, they've measured the energy that comes off of a fat cell versus the energy that comes off of food. And it's actually a cleaner, more powerful, like a cleaner source of energy that comes from a cell of fat than comes off food. So actually the energy that you get while fat cells are being burned is better, is more kind of thrust in your life than from food. The only downside, I would say, certainly your bowels sort of just taking a time out for a few days. I find that very weird. I know that there are members that aren't hugely regular anyway. The less you eat, you notice that there's just nothing happening at the bathroom, and that can be quite frustrating. Sleep is also an issue. Essentially, when you're fasting, your body goes into fight or flight, and so I think that's partly why you have so much energy. And it's sort of like, if you imagine, I talk a lot about which would you rather be chased by, a tiger that had just eaten a gazelle and couldn't move, or the one that hadn't eaten for a week? Which is the more efficient, like faster, more like visual acuity and all these things? Which is the more like proficient animal? And it's actually the fasted one, and that's much like humans. But rest, trying to switch off at the end of the night and go to sleep, is really hard. Your cortisol levels end up really quite high. So that is a negative of fasting when it comes to like extended fasting. So like there are ways to tire yourself out. So I used to walk the streets in a pair of shorts and t-shirt at like 3 a.m. and just try and cool myself down as much as possible. Because when you're cold, you have to burn extra calories to like tire yourself out. So I used to struggle to sleep. That was the only downside. But yeah, but you can lose 3 pounds of fat a day, between 1 and 3 pounds of fat a day. So it's, for rapid weight loss, it's certainly helpful. Not to get too woo-woo or anything, or too kind of out there, but there's a gland in the brain called the pineal gland, and it's related to sleep and dreaming and shamanic visions and psychic powers and all that sort of stuff. And it's right in the dead center of the brain. And essentially it has it looks like an eye, a tiny little eye. It's got the same connections that your eye does, and it's in the center of your brain. And what happens is when you close your eyes to go to sleep, it opens and it allows you to dream. And dreaming is said to like essentially synthesize your experience of the world with your own beliefs. And so essentially you process information that you've taken in during the day in dreams while you're sleeping. The problem is with the diet that we have in the West, like white wheat and stuff like that, calcifies and makes your pineal gland like a little stone. And actually that's how they find brain tumors a lot of the time. They do a brain scan, and if the pineal gland is off to the side, it's because there's like a brain tumor. So actually they use it for that, to measure that. But when your pineal gland is filled with calcium, and that's what happens from a wheat-based diet, like your breads and everything like that, it really interferes with sleep and processing of information and stuff. And fasting decalcifies, so it gets rid of the calcium and it fixes your pineal gland. So people, and maybe this is not the right place for this, but there's maybe not a coincidence that sort of Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, all the great leaders of the major religions had a major period of fasting before they did their greatest work. So whether they were real or whether they were not, or whether you believe in them or not, historically, in each of their stories, there was a extended period of fasting that they did before they reached their sort of version of enlightenment and stuff. And there are a lot of connections with sort of higher brain function. Certainly my experience once I'd got into longer fasting was like reading. I felt like I was just scanning a page and just taking all the information off it, and I was reading it like 4 or 5 times the speed that I was. It's really weird and brilliant process, but it's odd. Cooking for kids can be an absolute nightmare. Sometimes you're chopping stuff, and maybe you guys experienced this already. You're chopping and you've got something in your mouth, and it takes you about 20 seconds to realize that you've just eaten something, and you didn't even realize it. So yeah, it's weird. Superwoman, you've got a question. Is that you, Medusa?
Yeah, hi, sorry, just let me come back on. I was just going to say, totally agree with that. I kind of have fasted for like up to 9 days at a time, and when I have done that, I feel like I've got more energy, I've got more focus, I've got more concentration, and it really works. And I like that you mentioned that it kind of, does open up like your pineal gland and allow you to sort of see things a little bit more deeply. But yeah, it's just getting back into it, isn't it? It feels like it's so hard, but sometimes it's like you kind of do it automatically without thinking because you're busy and you don't eat in your day. But I think what you said earlier about, the bit about when you set yourself a target of like, 56 hours or 90 hours and you break it at 56, you do give yourself a good kick in, don't you? You don't tend to kind of take it on the chin and go, well, actually 56 is better than nothing. You kind of go into a bit of free fall. But
definitely. I think you're absolutely right. I think it's better for you to do 1 meal a day or 2 meals a day every day for the next 6 months than it is trying like 100-hour fasts and all this like out there stuff. That's not sustainable. That's not a lifestyle. If you were to eat a nice, tidy, organized, planned month, and the last weekend of every month you were trying to do a 48-hour fast, really beneficial. It does wonders for you. There's a process that happens quite quickly when you start fasting. Like about 12 hours in, the process begins. So firstly, when your body is not concentrating on digesting food and using up calories, it automatically starts to repair and heal. And it starts in the gut and it actually continues around most of the body. But as soon as you bring in food again, it's like your mind's attention or your body's attention is on the food that's come in or the calories and down and like sending fuel to different parts of your body and stuff. When you go without food, it actually it heals itself. It essentially heals itself. And there's a process called autophagy, autophagy, depending on how you pronounce it, where So think of this: if every cell in your body needs fuel to replicate and to continue doing what it's doing, that also includes every cell that's not doing what it should be doing. So psoriasis probably wasn't on your original DNA, eczema, dandruff, athlete's foot, like lots and lots and lots of conditions are, maybe all, are malformed cells. Arthritis is often fluid being sent to joints. When you deprive your body of, well, firstly, fuel, it can't spare the energy to build those malformed cells, and they're the first to go. So what happens is, with the process of autophagy when you're fasting, is every cell that's not being made according to the original blueprint, but through either living near a telephone pylon or diet or stress or whatever it is that environmentally that's affecting and causing cells to malform, those are the first to go. So your body starts stripping off everything that's not part, like it's not the essential basic blueprint of your body. And so people heal massive things. There is a conversation to be had about cancer that I'm not having here, kind of for legal reasons, essentially. But there is a discussion about if your body is breaking down malformed cells because it hasn't got the fuel, because it needs to keep your lungs working, your heart pumping, and replicating those cells. There are implications for that, but certainly a conversation for another day. But with regard the skin, your skin feeling the best it ever has, your nails looking the best they ever have, like rashes, lumps and bumps, they go away with repeated fasting, and it's mind-boggling. Because I've spoken to a lot of people in the area of fasting, a lot of people can essentially have run experiments on themselves because they've had health conditions. Autophagy also, because it resets the original blueprint of your body, autoimmune issues, they also begin to clear up quite quickly. And there are studies ongoing with things like ME and various other autoimmune disorders that fasting and autophagy could play its part in managing well, shall we say, if I choose my words carefully. But yes, fasting is the single healthiest thing that I've ever come across by a long way. And essentially for me, not for anyone else, like I can't advise or recommend anything to anyone else, but for me, basically all health conditions I'll be addressing with fasting, basically. Medusa?
Yeah, I was going to say I managed to cure what's that? I had toenail fungal infection with fasting, and I didn't even expect that to be one of the things that it cured. I was fasting for weight loss, didn't expect it to cure fungal nail infection, but it did. And loads of eczema issues that I have, usually if I fast, they kind of disappear. And I find kind of like when I'm fasting, rather than doing like a calorie restricted diet, my skin tightens rather than having all that baggy loose stuff. And like the first 3-4 days my skin is terrible. I'm like, it's breaking out everywhere and all that kind of stuff. But after about the 4th day, my skin is like glowing, like noticeably, and it does
makes a massive
difference.
You actually raise a really interesting point. And again, this is an information like session, sort of just me sharing what I know about it. I'm not recommending fasting, dry fasting, or anything else to anyone. Everyone finds their own path, does their own research. And if you come to something that you want to discuss or explore with me, absolutely delighted to. I'm not recommending any of this to anyone. But I do get a lot of questions about loose skin. So especially often from sort of outside folk looking in and saying, oh, these people losing weight so fast, they like to try and find a negative. What about all the loose skin if people are losing so much weight so quickly? Dry fasting, because it like quadruples the speed of autophagy in the body, and because the skin cells that are in loose skin aren't necessary for your body to stay alive and function. They're some of the first cells that get dumped and peed out and chucked away. And so there are ways to reduce loose skin: exercise, there are scrubs, massage, lots of different ways. But the truth is that autophagy, and that's a benefit of long fasting or dry fasting, reduces loose skin because it's near the top of the list of things that aren't necessary that are on the body. So when priorities start being keep me alive, the body does not have the spare energy to keep these things going, and so your skin very much vastly tightens. If anyone was interested in doing longer fasts, if you're currently doing, I think most of you are kind of aiming for 12-6 or 12-7 as your eating window. Find a day when you've not got stuff on. I mean, I think the only reason that you might feel tired or shaky and things, a lot of it's psychological. What if you ask anyone in the street, if you don't eat for 2 days, how are you going to feel? They're going to say weak, tired, shaky. These are things that we all believe will happen, and we create a reality more than we think we do. And so if the expectation is I'll wake up completely, like a wet rag because I haven't had any fuel to keep me going, you will manifest that reality. But actually, a lot of us are getting on better and better at just listening to our body. Maybe you're aiming to go till 12 o'clock, but 11 o'clock comes and you think, I just fancy a wee something, so you have a wee something. That mindset of I'll just listen to my body, and I've got my intention, but what my body is telling me, I will respond to. That's the way to get into fasting. So it might be, maybe something at work delayed you, so you didn't get lunch at 12, you got it at 2. And because you already brought your lunch, you ate the lunch that you brought, and it was quite a big lunch. So by the time 5 o'clock comes, or 5:30 when tea time arrives, you're like, I'm eating for the sake of eating. Why am I doing that? Don't eat. Like, if you don't feel that you want to eat, don't eat. And then people are scared that maybe bedtime will come and they're hungry, or that they might be weak or tired by morning. You won't be. And really, if you are, break fast a couple of hours early the next morning. No big deal. Play it by ear. See how you feel. Your intention is, well, I wasn't that hungry come tea time, so I skipped it. And my intention is to go to my usual window tomorrow. But no one's got like a knife at your throat. Just eat at 10 o'clock or 9 o'clock if you find that you've skipped tea and then morning has arrived and you're hungrier than you expected to be. You expected yourself to be. Just eat. So without putting any massive pressure on yourself and without pushing yourself into a situation that you're uncomfortable with, you can eke up the hours that you go. Always just checking how you feel. How do you feel? If you're going to a gym class in the morning and you've pushed it an extra 2 hours and you're weaker than you'd like to be at your class, don't cut those 2 hours. Go back to what you were originally. You can play around with your routine every single day. And yeah, with the best of intentions in the world, you can say, I'm going to go till such and such a time and put the work in to try and get there. But the world ain't going to end if you're an hour off of it, or 2 hours off of it, or 4 hours off of it. We're talking about the rest of your life. Ideally, this is knowledge that you've been learning since you started and won't ever leave you. It's not a diet. It's you knowing what you can achieve with your body comfortably, what's pushing it too far, what leaves you a bit tired at work, or if I eat at this time during the day, I'm peckish by bedtime. I can actually get through when I'm hungry, or I tend to cave. If you just know it about yourself, then that can only be a good thing, I think. Has anyone else got any questions? No? Nope. Go on, Medusa.
Sorry, not a question, but just I think kind of the way that if this helps anyone, the way that I eased myself into it was just pushing my meal times a little bit later. And it was a little bit like when I did manage to quit smoking, it was like, don't worry about how long you're fasting for, but just worry about each next meal. So have your strategy for what you're going to do instead of eating your next meal. And it might be that you're going to do a set of laundry, or you're going to go for a walk, or you might do something that's like, you know, that you're really enjoying, like you're going to go take a shower or a bath or whatever. And don't set yourself a target, like a long-term target. Just do it meal by meal and see how far you go. And when you start getting the headaches, just start trying the salts and the ACV and just play around with it, because you'll get a feeling for how it works for you. Yeah.
How many people have had an intention of eating at 12 o'clock, and then a kid's emergency, a work emergency, something's happened, and you couldn't get to that meal, and it's been later on instead when you finally that thing passed, and then you're like, damn, it's 3 o'clock, and I never even got a chance for lunch. Were you even hungry? Did you even particularly notice that you hadn't eaten till after the thing had passed? Like, if you were really, really busy, if there was like an emergency, you probably wouldn't even think about food. Like, if things were actually like just keeping you busy, if you had an exciting day going on doing something like, I don't know, Ken, shopping or fun activities and stuff, unless someone says, right, it's time to sit down with the packed lunches, more often than not, food actually doesn't come to mind. Often we're like, that's tea time. Oh, it's the lunch break. Like, oh, so much of it's in the head. So much of it's in the head. And it's just learned behaviors. And often it's sitting in the same chair at the same time. That's why snacking at night for a lot of people is an issue. You're in the same bit of the sofa and the same channels on the telly, and it's the same time, and your partner's in the same slippers, or whatever the routine and the habitual bit is exactly the same. And so, of course, your behavior, the temptation is for it to be exactly the same. So it doesn't mean, like, when I say do something else, you don't have to run a mile. You don't have to do anything like wild and wonderful. But maybe if you're always sitting on the same seat on the sofa, get up and sit on the back step if you've got a back step into your garden. Do something that breaks the habit, because as humans, when it becomes habitual, we're not even thinking about what we're doing. Like, loads and loads and loads of behaviors are not conscious. They just happen. They're habits. So you get, the way you get dressed is in the same order every day. The way you trudge through the living room is the same. It's the same. And of course, the same outcomes are going to come from the same behaviors in the same orders. So just change it up, and it sort of makes the brain go, oh, wait a minute. Well, all right, okay. And so you come out of that autopilot state, and you start actually thinking about what you're doing. And it's in that conscious state where your intentions are, where you're like, oh yeah, I'm trying to be good. I'm trying to make healthy choices, as opposed to autopilot of, it's 9 o'clock. We always have a cup of tea. And it happens before you even think it through. Hello, Leslie, you've got your hand up.
I think that's it now. Can you hear me?
Yep.
This is my 6th day now of doing 20. What am I doing? 23 ones. I can't believe I've done it. I'm in shock. I'm just in shock. And I think like loads of us will probably feel the same who have been doing this. I cannot believe I can do this, because I was the biggest snacker in the world. I was the person who said if it was the only food in the world that you could eat forever would be crisps. And I've not had any. I can honestly say I've not cheated once. I cannot believe it. But, and I think, do you know what I think it is as well, is it's fear. And I think fear comes into it. And like what you were saying, we've been conditioned to eat 3 meals a day. It's been drummed into us since we were kids. And you're like, oh, I might pass out if I didn't have breakfast, or, the world's going to end if I didn't have lunch. I cannot believe that I have lasted on 1 meal a day, and I have probably never went above 700 calories a day, where my kitchen cupboards are open constantly at nights forever. Because I go through and I think, what will I have now? Oh, I'll have some of this. Oh, I'll have some of that. And it's non-stop. And in the last 5 weeks that I've been doing this, I've never done it once. And I just didn't feel hungry.
It's amazing.
So it's just amazing.
Absolutely amazing.
Amazing. And we've probably all done different diets. I've done Slimming World and everything else, and none of them have worked. But this one is the most satisfying.
Good.
So, but do you know, Edward, to keep yourself going, because I find sometimes maybe late morning, I think, oh, I feel quite peckish now.
Mhm.
So, you know, and water's great. It's amazing stuff, but you kind of think, oh God, more water.
Mhm.
So I had my first cup of black coffee of the day, and it was fine. I actually managed to drink it
Good.
without gagging. It was fine. I'll do it again. But am I being okay just having that, you know, that Bovril drink halfway through the morning?
Yeah,
It's about 10 calories. So,
that's absolutely fine.
aye. I thought I'd maybe get away with that.
Aye. Well, I think a cup of tea is like 4 calories apparently. So it's like 2 cups of black tea. And you
Right.
get away with that. So aye.
We'll go with that then.
Yeah,
Thank you.
definitely. And so what I've done is the wee yeah, that's your hand going back down. The wee poll that I did earlier about who has done a 23-hour fast or over. Those who said yes to it, I'm being mindful that those in the group who are eating 2 meals a day and they're doing really well and they're happy at 2 meals a day, I don't want the group to be always about, because I think that those who are eating 1 meal a day, that sounds like more exciting and slightly more glamorous, and it's really amazing. But I don't want the people who are eating 2 meals a day to think that they're somehow not doing good enough. And so that my fear is that when the scales don't move for people eating 2 meals a day, the sum that gets done in their head is, I'm not good enough because I'm eating 2 meals a day. And these people who are losing are eating 1 meal a day. So what I've done is I've created a little group called Fast Club. And so for those who want to explore, maybe try out either like 23-1 or more, come out, ask me to join, and I'll put you in. So anyone that's here tonight or who watches this back, because I guess that would be the people that would be more likely to be interested in fasting, rather than the main group, the sort of ladies that low carb, rather than that being saturated in fasting talk, I think it's really nice the way it is because folk are eating at different times and have quite different routines. But if suddenly there's a point, a tipping point where maybe there's 10 members that are all eating 1 meal a day or fasting longer and all getting amazing results because fasting gets amazing results, then I think that the natural kind of conclusion that gets drawn from that is anyone whose scales don't move for a couple of days, all right, you have to starve yourself for days and days and days if you want to lose any weight. And so I'm trying to save any bad feeling on those who have found their groove eating more than 1 meal a day. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. Like, you can lose tons of weight eating 2 meals a day or 2 meals a day and a snack. But it's a space where folk can ask advice about fasting and maybe explore it, try it out, get some feedback, and we can delve into it a wee bit more specifically than in the sort of ladies that low carb lunch. But so yes, so anyone who's not in there who is seeing this, ask if you want to join. You're more than welcome. It will be more will be asked of you in there, because it takes commitment and it takes a bit of accountability. And I think whereas arms round the shoulder are probably the order of the day in the ladies low carb lunch, sometimes it might be more kind of kicks up the bum sort of sort of pushing a little bit harder maybe in the fasting group, because it is more taxing than eating more frequently. It is harder than eating more frequently, and so it will maybe require a bit more of a push. So it's not necessarily for everyone, nor should it be for everyone. It's just what people want from their journey. Medusa?
Can I ask a favour? You know, in the fasting group, can we not post pictures of food, because they drive me crazy in the ladies at low carb thing. Pictures of food are like kind of just like
Yes.
food porn for me a little bit, and it's like, oh, so I tend to kind of scroll past them really quickly. And can we have like a set day for weigh-in and set day for photos as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
Fasters Friday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's not two factions really. It's just trying to make sure that everyone has room for what their specific needs are.
Sure.
I think, and there will be the odd person who probably tend to linger more in the fasting group, because I think maybe Medusa, you might be in that camp of it might serve what you need a little bit more. And there's another couple of folk that might suit as well. But yeah, I hope. And you know what? We're all learning. Every day's a school day for me too. You might find that in 6 weeks from now, it's a bloody disaster, and we go, well, that didn't work, and we've learned from it. But I'm trying to find the best way to tailor everybody's support to suit them and help them as best I can.
Okay.
And like I think I mentioned earlier, I want to get glamping pods. We've got paddocks around the house. I'm going to put like 10 glamping pods in the front garden and get you all here and make you all bath for 48 hours. That'd be great. Distract you with hypnosis stuff and meditation classes and yurts with incense in them and that. Sounds grand.
I'll do face yoga, yeah.
Brilliant. I don't know. Let me just very quickly check to see if there was any other questions that came in. No, I don't think so. But as I say, if there's anyone who wants to come into the group and isn't in there, or would like to talk about it a little bit more, you know where I am. And yes, it's a subject that can get very, very complex. I'm not a scientist. I know a bit about how the body works, and I have friends that are sort of molecular biologists and biochemists and stuff, and so I'm interested in it, but I am not a scientist, and so my understanding of it is limited. But I have people that I can ask, and I've talked autophagy and fasting with a biochemist on our YouTube channel, and I could hold my own enough that so I'm comfortable that I know some, but I don't claim to be the authority on the science of fasting. Dr. Berg is a good one on YouTube for like the science of it. And there are one or two others. I might make a folder in the shared folder called fasting and just make it its own little subject on there in case there's anyone that wants to delve a little bit deeper into it. But yes, I hope that's been relatively informative and maybe useful, or even spurred some thinking that may lead to other thinking and ideas, which I'm always happy to discuss and explore. But yeah, thank you guys for coming along, and see you all soon. Speak soon. Have a good sleep. Get an early night.
Thank you.
Take care. See you later. Bye-bye. Bye.
Thank you.